Hello, welcome to the official Hacks podcast from HBO Max and Same Boat Studios. I'm Jen Statsky, co-showrunner and co-creator of Hacks. Joining me today, as always, are the other brilliant Hacks showrunners creators and Sassafras shoppers, Paul W. Downs and Lucia Aniello.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Thanks for having us back.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure to have you as my guest today. Now, before we get into episode 6, Lucia and I have some items we need to get to.
We're going to do at the top of it.
Yeah, at the top. We
great.
want to speak on these issues at
Off
the very
top. This is called the soapbox moment.
Okay,
soapbox
you go
moment.
first.
So, listeners, I want you to know that today I'll be trying out some new voices.
Ooh.
Because I've recently become aware of some online criticism
Oh, no.
of my voice and my demeanor,
No.
and I need to rectify it.
Oh, no. Cyberbullying?
She was cyberbullied within an inch of her life last night, to quote Broad City.
So the comment was that for a clever comedy writer, Jen Statsky sounds like a depressed mortician.
Oh, no.
Now that's...
A depressed mortician?
Now let's dig into this. So
That sounds sexy, though. Like a hot... That sounds like... It sounds
I
like it's a
actually
hot
think the
person.
depressed mortician is a great title.
Oh.
It's sticky.
Well,
The
isn't that 6
depressed
feet under?
mortician. This means that the assumption is that all morticians are already sad.
No, I think
Does
it
it?
doesn't. I think it means that you are specifically a depressed mortician. Most of them are not.
Some are gleeful in their work.
I think they're putting you in a
Oh.
subcategory.
Wow. So, but I think what it is it's like, oh, well, a mortician already would sound pretty down.
Maybe. Yes,
This
they're
chick is
salt-
like a
they're
salt and
mortician that's
wounds.
sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they are.
Well,
saying.
listen, my whole life, do I know I have a monotone? Yeah, I do.
Can I come to your defense as your friend?
I've been waiting.
I do think when you get into the podcast studio, you get a little sweaty balls. You get close to the mic and people start to, and I even do it. And now I've moved the mic away and I'm just talking normally like I talk.
Right.
Yes, I'm raising the octave to seem more approachable because normally I have a much more sultry, deep voice. But I am trying to be approachable. Anyway, it's probably dialed up because we're in a podcast studio.
You're trying to even out your voice so that it's a pleasant listening experience.
Right.
And I'm going to come to your defense by saying, so what? Depressed mortician sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
That sounds funny to me, not
Yeah, it's
not
giving
funny.
Daria. That
Yeah,
says
I'm like,
Daria to me, which I
right.
like.
Sure.
I'm
I've
like,
gotten
what's
that
the
many times. in my
problem
life.
have you?
What's
Okay.
the problem with having a sarcastic ass vibe? I'm like, sounds great.
Okay, so you don't think I should go to a vocal coach
No.
to change?
Well, what is your new, you said you're going to try a
No.
new voice. So what is the new voice?
Well, I guess my new voice is I'm just going to be more animated.
Oh God, please don't.
Oh, this episode, it was such a blast to direct this episode. I love directing.
Well, that's
Like
just
that?
There you go.
I don't know. Is that true?
No.
They want authenticity on the pod. You know,
You
they
just
want,
gotta be real. That's the thing. Now,
Yeah.
Oh, no.
now, well, and I've gone on the record with saying this every morning when I see you.
Oh, right.
I'm going, hi, my love. I'm approaching you. I'm giving you a hug.
Yes.
I'm showering you with love,
Right,
and your
right.
reaction sometimes is a wave back to me.
Right in my head.
Yeah, you go,
Yeah.
hey, you said you
Yeah.
don't want to see
There's a
me.
different energy level.
Right.
Sometimes you get hyped up. In fact, I will say when you're directing, you are hyped up as if you're at a sporting event.
Right.
You are someone who doesn't sit in a director's chair.
Right.
You stand, you crouch, you kneel, you point, you clap.
Yes.
You are
Yes.
very on the sidelines of an NBA game. You're
Yes,
coaching.
you are.
You know, you're gesticulating.
I'm
You are talking to the
gesticulating,
ref.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
And this
Yes.
was, if we may get into it, your directing debut this episode.
That's right. That's right. Let's talk about episode 6, season 5, titled Quick Scribble.
I am
Let's
going to get
talk
my
about-
soopbox in real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Before
yes.
Before we get
okay.
into quick,
So we've dealt with my issues. Now let's get to Lucia's. She has something to say.
I have a pitch, which is I think salsa and chips are actually a good idea for breakfast.
Oh.
Now, I've done salsa and chips for a couple of mornings now,
Oh, wow.
and it's a 2 out of 3 spice of the salsa. Gets me going. I'm
Yeah.
awake.
Yeah.
It's vegetables.
Right. Is there? Are we
It's
getting any
vegetables is an
protein?
interesting
Are we getting
thing.
any protein?
Not
say.
the last couple of days because I'm getting my
Right.
kid ready for school.
I am going to be honest.
Sure.
It's vegetables sounds like what a teen would say who's supposed to eat more vegetables. It's like, salsa and chips is vegetables. I don't know if it's vegetables.
I want to get behind you on this, and I want chips
Okay.
and salsa to break through as a possible breakfast. I don't want you to be looked at negatively
No,
when
you don't
you're
want to be
eating
shunned.
chips and salsa for breakfast.
No.
So one thought I have is a lot of times people go in the morning, you need a healthy ratio of like carbs to protein.
Yeah.
So how can we get a little
It
protein
would be
in?
egg. It would be getting an egg on
Okay.
there.
Egg, okay.
Here's the thing is, and Paul knows this because he's with me and we're together because
Yeah.
we're co-parenting and we love each other and we're husband
We
and
are
wife.
doing well. It sounds as if you're like we're
I'm
together.
not
we're
like
living
in a
right?
place. I'm not
Okay.
really in a place in the mornings right now where I have time to be doing that because
Sure.
we
No,
got a
to
kid.
cook an egg is to have no children.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe some people can.
Maybe some people can, but for
Sure.
us, the kid is, let's be honest, not to call him out, but today we were mostly concentrating on him pooping.
Sure.
That was a big part of our morning.
So part of what you're saying is the chips and salsa breakfast is also so quick.
There's convenience behind.
I see.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now we should get into the episode. I've taken up enough of your time.
I think we just end the podcast here. I think we've figured it out, and
now I'm hungry.
And AI could never have come up with chips and salsa.
Speaking of AI,
yeah,
this episode was not written by AI.
No.
Thank God. It was written by two writers in our room, Carolyn Lipka and Joe Mandy, who is also an actor on the show, playing Ray at the Palmetto, and this season in episode 5 at the Hospitality Olympics. And it was directed, yes, by our co-showrunner and our diva, Jen Statsky, our coach. The price tag on the opening of the diva keeps getting higher.
Just to say it, it would save us a ton if we didn't have the Deborah statue.
Well, how are people supposed to make an entrance if not between my legs? Mm-hmm. Where's the joy, the whimsy? Where's the
Wow factor.
The wow factor?
Deborah and Marcus come up with 2 potential ways to get more funds, securing investment from a tech developer, Bro.
I got my start streamlining the way hospitals buy and receive medical tubing.
Oh, I used to sell a cat-themed blood pressure monitor.
See? So you get it.
And booking a stand-up headliner to bring in advanced ticket sales.
We have a very attractive offer for you.
I mean, if it's a cuck thing, maybe, but I'm pretty much retired from gay stuff.
But in the end, they find that easy money comes with a cost.
Isn't that so true?
That's
the Westerman
so true.
song, season 1,
yeah.
episode 2, beautiful song.
Great song.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the meat of this episode, Jen, as I mentioned, this is your first time directing a Hacks episode. Did you like it, or what's your feeling?
Did I like it? Did I like it? Well, first of all, what a privilege to get to direct an episode of television.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that opportunity, Paul.
It was a
Lucia.
little bit
It was hoisted upon her.
Not
Yeah, we were
consensual.
basically like, Jen, we would love for you to direct an episode. This is the thing. Jen writes really visually. She thinks about the show holistically. She is a storyteller. She is a director. And so we thought it would be great for her to do. And also it's helpful because each of us directing an episode means we each get days in the edit as a director for a director's cut, moving the story along before, as producers, we join the process and do producer's cuts. So it was just a way to also balance the workload and I think make a better episode because who knows the show better than Jen Statsky?
There were aspects of it that I wouldn't say I liked, but there were aspects of it that are just what we do every day. Like it didn't feel that different. The parts of it that I find the most challenging are the things that don't come as natural to me, which is the more visual, and then the stress of it on the day, which I already knew would be quite intense.
It's just insane, isn't it?
Yes. And so as Paul was mentioning, the reason I think that I could not sit and I was and I was crouching is there's such anxiety running through your body. The carrying of, have I gotten everything I need for this scene? Have I covered this actor's side of the scene? Is it work? The carrying of that along with the timeline of it all is incredibly stressful.
It ages you, babe.
Yeah, it's really challenging that way. So
But are you happy you did it?
yeah.
Oh, look
Do
at
you feel proud?
Look at this
Do you feel
voice.
proud?
Yeah. I don't know if I feel proud. I
Hmm.
feel like I did it.
You did so well.
Yeah, I think you did
What
a
a
great
fabulous
job.
episode.
Well, I love this episode.
Yeah. I
do
But
too.
again, team effort. It's not like,
Sure,
you
of
know.
course.
It takes a village. One thing that was cut from episode 6, which I found really funny, Kayla says at one point in the episode,
Wow,
cocaine.
cocaine. I was really looking forward to reading before bed.
Trick question, I already got it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, fine, I can only do 2 lines.
And then in the hotel,
Oh, yeah.
she asks Jimmy to read to her, and he does. And that was a
Yes.
very funny little thing.
That
Jimmy
is,
reading to Kayla
I
is
know.
funny.
There is sometimes when we cut things like that, I do
I
toss and turn
know.
it out and go, oh, should we have left it in?
Here's generally the process of editing an episode, right? So an editor puts together a cut of it. It's usually, let's say, 40 minutes or so. And then the director comes in, which is usually one of us, and cuts it down to like 35 or so. And then we'll present it to the other two people. And then we'll work on getting it closer to 31, 32, whatever it may be. But sometimes when you do that big chop, there's parts of it that you end up putting back in because later you want it. You kind of are like, oh, I missed that. Sometimes there's stuff like, I'll be like, oh, I cut this. I'll tell you guys like, oh, I cut this from the director's cut. But now like halfway through the producer's cut, I'm like, I want you to see it. And you're like, yeah, we don't need it. Or we'll be like, actually, I do miss it. So like we also really try to get through like every like alt and moment and like see everything. But we do really try to keep these episodes tight. And I think for some people, they might say it's the last season. If they're already here, just let it be a little looser and let those little fun moments in. And we get that. And I think there are, in general, I'd say
There are more this season than in previous seasons.
Yes.
I think we were a little like looser.
a
We
little
were
bit.
looser with trying to keep it so close to 30 minutes.
Yes. And that
But we do
isn't-
think that is a good pace for comedy.
Yeah.
We are very aware of the pace. We
Yep.
don't ever want it to overstay its welcome, whether that's the series
Mhm.
or an episode itself. But there are certainly things that I then miss forever and live in my mind.
Yes.
And it's nice that we're playing a couple on the podcast because they are things that I think we even say to each other as catchphrases, but they're things that we know from the edit.
Right.
Mhm.
And like Lucia said, we do watch almost every single take. We even watch pre-roll moments before the action is called to see if there's anything to steal and use. I think one of the greatest joys of the show, and we've talked about this a lot lately, is getting the chance to let people shine and let people show their gifts on
Yeah.
the show.
And particularly, I think, and one thing I remember from this episode, it's like such a great Jimmy and Kayla episode. I think it's even harder to leave things on the cutting room floor of Jimmy and Kayla because Paul and Meg improvise more than anyone else in the cast because no,
I know it.
and so for example, that scene that you're talking about where you started reading to her in bed, you guys were just lying in those beds and just absolutely improvising, and there was so much funny stuff, and we watched all of it and tried to take like the funniest moments, but you just can't include everything in one episode.
No.
But the reading was completely improvised by Meg, and then you also, in a very funny way, just yes-anded her and took the book and started reading to her, and it's so funny, and none of that was, of course, scripted.
We do have a good time and I think have a great rhythm of like yes-anding each other and just
Yes.
going with it and being so
That's-
in the
that's-
character that it's easy
And
to do. And so we do that a lot.
And it's actually quite, not that it's not hard for Meg, but it's especially a hard thing for you to, in my opinion, for you to improvise because you yes and her, but you yes and her as Jimmy, which is often like having to not let her go crazy, but you're also not saying no to her. Like you're saying yes, but you're being the voice of reason at the same time, which is a very hard needle
Right.
to thread.
It's the trickiest part of playing like the straight man, which is you need to, like you're saying, be reasonable in the world of the show, but outside the world of the show, follow the fun
Yes.
and know that it's a comedy and play and let it play out. So like you're very incredible at doing that. And Meg and you have such a good rhythm of being able to just like flow with that and stay within the boundaries of the show while also being exciting and surprising and funny.
It's
Well,
like that
thank
you're
you.
like a straight-ish man. You're not
Yeah.
a full straight man. You're a
Yeah,
straight-ish man.
Well, yeah, because the straight man has to ground it and make it feel real so that you can use those moments. Because if you don't, the improvised moments just become too broad or
Yeah.
too eccentric or
Yeah.
don't really work in the lane of the show. So you set people up,
Mhm.
whatever that is, when the person on the side kicks it to the person in the center and they kick it in the goal in
Assist.
soccer. You have to
Assist.
assist. You have to do a lot.
Assist.
So you have to like ground what was presented to you, the offer, and then you also have to assist for the next layup.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. I think that works.
So this episode, obviously, we talk about AI. And I think one of the really fun things about this one is that it feels kind of old school hacks in that Deborah and Ava are having grist over a specific issue that they have different viewpoints on. And that's always, I think, something we really enjoy writing, which is getting to explore an issue through their eyes and having them both be, as we've said many times, both a little bit right and a little bit wrong. And so that was something that we wanted to explore in this episode. And you really see it in the bedroom scene when Deborah comes into Ava's bedroom and they have it out over the ethics of AI. But that scene starts with a very important milestone in the history of the show Hacks, which is Deborah comes in and she says,
Oh, God, can we crack a window? It smells like King Tutankhamun's tomb in here.
now, that line was kind of the hanging chad of the Hacks season 5 writers' room, which is that
it existed in 4 as well.
Oh, maybe. Okay, it was even in season
I think
4.
multiple seasons.
Oh,
It may
maybe
have
season
been
3.
since. It
Who
may
knows?
have been since the tour bus. I don't know.
Maybe
I
since the
could
tour
see
bus.
that.
Paul pitched this. He said that Deborah would say, "It smells like King Tutankhamun's tomb in here," and he kept pitching it.
And wouldn't she?
And
Wouldn't she, fair listener?
Well, she did, and she did,
And she did,
as you
and she
saw in this
does, and she
episode.
would.
Now, talk to us about like the inspiration for that line.
I think that Deborah was an art history major
Okay.
Okay.
At Berkeley.
at Berkeley. I think that she is such a lover of art. And I think that she has interest in history. And I think she would not only reference King Tutankhamun's tomb, because I imagine there was some must, there was some mold, there was some smell. But I think she would also use his full name. You know, I don't think she's saying King Tut. She's like, no, King Tutankhamun. So I always wanted her to dig Ava and say something smelled like King Tutankhamun's
and
tomb.
it became such a thing that I believe there was a cash prize offered to any writer who could get it into one of their episodes.
That's exactly right. I actually did not make any money on season 5 because my entire fee went to
Paying Carolyn and Joe Mandy for
paying
this.
Carolyn
Now,
and Joe Mandy.
You yourself had
Yes.
a love of Egyptian history.
I was
am right?
obsessed. I really loved Egyptians. I loved Egyptian history. I was King Tutankhamun, I think, a couple of times for Halloween.
Yes, I think I've seen the photos.
I had a replica of the mask on my wall as a kid in my bedroom.
yeah.
I used to buy papyrus with
Sure,
hieroglyphics
sure.
at
Oh,
the, I think it was called the museum store.
Yes.
Remember the museum
this.
store at the mall?
I remember this.
Yeah, so I had those. I had a scarab,
Yeah.
which is like a beetle. Can you
Th-
imagine a
this
fifth
guy
grade
is
Paul wearing a scarab, a turquoise scarab to school?
You're just an individual, and you always have been.
I always have been.
You're one of one, Paul W.
Thank you
Downs.
so much.
And but also this was a big thing for us growing up, like Egyptian history. I remember our second grade play was about King Tut, and I remember the song,
Sing
King
it.
Tut, Tut. He was so divine, King Tut, Tut. Yes, very, very fine.
Whoa!
Now, does that sound like a depressed mortician to you?
I don't think so.
Oh yeah, we really learned a lot
Now,
about the Egyptians.
You want to hear a
growing up.
story? I had an art history teacher, actually in high school, who took a class to the Egyptian wing. And as they did the tour, one of the students fainted.
Oh.
And when she was revived, she said, "The statue spit at me."
Oh.
And the docent, the tour guide,
Oh my God.
said, "You're the third person who's collapsed and said the statue spit at them."
If I'm a sculptor and my ass has been moved from Egypt to New York and I can spit on some bitch,
Oh my
I'm taking
God.
that opportunity.
But can you believe that?
I can't believe it. It's amazing, but I do believe it.
I believe it. Stolen
3
artifact.
people. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, listeners, this line was a long time coming. And I remember doing the director's cut and our editor, John Daigle, who edited this episode so beautifully. So
Oh,
much.
what a
John,
master.
John.
John is an incredible editor, incredible guy. He did at one point, because that scene was a little long, saying to
No.
me, like, oh, could we lose this King Tutankhamun?
No, I thought he was
And
good.
said-
Dare
I
you.
said, John, you don't understand what you've just said.
Yeah.
You don't even understand the gravity
Having
of this issue.
having "It smells like King Tutankhamun's tomb" in here fulfills the prophecy,
Yes.
completes the circle of hacks to me.
Yeah, good.
Yes,
It's because
it
it's part
really-
of your life.
It's just so Deborah, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's very Deborah.
So our girls, they butt heads over this issue, this episode, but in the end, they find themselves finding common ground.
And you know, something you said earlier, Jen, is really interesting to me, which is that so often we say Deborah and Ava are both right and both wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I would venture to say in
Mhm.
this particular situation, we don't think Deborah's right in any way. We can understand that her hyper-capitalist persona would have feelings about this and would think,
Yes.
hey, money, and so what? money, and
Hey,
so
money,
what?
so what?
But we, as the authors of the story, do not agree with Deborah in any way.
No. We do not agree with Deborah, but we see in Deborah a common thread happening in real life in relation to AI, which is that people are thinking about it with their wallets and trying to maybe justify the moral use of AI in creative fields. And if they really investigated it, it would be a question of, is this necessary? And are we just trying to make people who already have a lot of money get more money? It's also like, as Ava says in this,
Oh my God, this is exactly like when like a fucking random ass diner puts a sign out front that's like best waffles in America. And it's like, yeah, according to who? The people trying to sell the fucking waffles.
as we research this episode, as we continue to try to understand, like, it's very hard to understand who has any real, authentic POV on the quality of it, because the people talking about how good and advanced and how it's going to change the world are the people who are going to profit from it. So why would I ever believe you?
Thank you.
Well, I do think anecdotally there are some people who are like, oh, but it's great. It helped me generate this deck, or it helped me generate this thing, which would have taken me a lot more time, or it would have been too hard, or I couldn't afford the clip art to make it. But I think what is absent from that kind of conversation is the nuance around like, well, does the good outweigh the bad?
Yes.
Because I think that's the thing that you can say, sure, they were able to do a rendering of what my backyard would look like with new flowers. And I couldn't have thought of that. And it's like fabulous. That's great.
Right.
But what if they become sentient and murder?
Or it's like they require fresh water, not old poopy water. They need fresh water. How
I
come?
know.
And
Right.
also,
Yeah,
it's like,
do sewage. Cool it down with sewage.
It doesn't work. It needs fresh water. It's like, no. It needs like the water
I don't
you
know.
drink.
Yeah.
And then two, it's also like, it literally is making people dumber. Whatever.
Yeah,
I can't even get into this because I'm going
But
to
that's the thing. I think that there's like,
it's not for us. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
and certainly not for the creative process. I do
No.
think we don't need to optimize it, as we say in the episode.
And thank God Deborah agrees on that.
Why are you trying to optimize the creative process? I mean, that's one of the things we've actually figured out. We're good there. We have been ever since cavemen told stories about bears. I mean, fix the ozone. Come up with a cure for cancer.
Oh my God, cancer again.
And not my favorite scene to direct, because on the day it was very cold and windy and difficult to do. But one of my favorite scenes in the Ava Deborah story of this episode is when the two of them are at Deborah's pond and they're sitting and they come to a consensus about this. And Deborah says, let's please move on. And in a full circle way, episode 103, where we see Deborah alone fishing while Ava watches the late night pilot, is such a big moment in the history of this show. And so then to come full circle in episode 506 and Deborah and Ava are sitting together at that pond laughing together, it's a really full circle moment. I'm always very touched when I see that scene, and that's credit to Jean and Hannah's performance in it.
You get your blood money?
And no, I decided against it.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Yes! Woo! Score one for the good guys. I am so glad I got through to you.
No, this was an amoral decision based on a nerd being a loser to me.
If you say so.
Oh, please, this was not all you. If I was that susceptible to your influence, I would have become a communist the moment you first darkened my doorstep.
Whatever.
Now, one other thing that is kind of maybe fun for the listeners, viewers of the show and listeners of the pod, Barbara, is we had such a debate about the last moment after Jimmy and Kayla have the trust fund taken away and the Porsche towed away and are losing their office now, when he says, that's it, and they're like, fuck, the music cue. Now, we ended up putting in Nelly Furtado, which was always a song that we've loved and is a reference to...
The car play doesn't work, but that's all right, because I'll just sing for us. Hope you like Nelly Furtado.
Kidding me? I'm a Nelly boy.
Okay.
But the other thing that we almost put in was a Hannah Montana song.
And we really debated this. Both cues worked really well for the end credits.
well.
And we've not done many joke songs, or, songs that like
songs that are
play as
kind of like a
double entendre,
wink at. So, I don't know that we've ever done it.
We did a little bit with Diane Warren, because at the end of episode 3, she says, call Diane Warren, and then Diane Warren's song plays.
Yes.
So that was very much like part of the story because usually we hope that the credit song reflects what's going on, but this was one that hopefully got a laugh.
The cue works so well, and that song, it's such a good song.
Yeah. And it's so like the way that it comes in and then it over credits when the lyrics come in. I'm like a bird. So good.
Beautiful.
Can we talk about the outfits from Sassafras?
Oh my gosh.
Way better.
Wow. Please, if you guys want a Hacks Halloween costume, I think
that's not a bad
that's
one.
a
Such a
really
good
good one.
We got to give it up to Kathleen Felix Hager. There were so many options. I mean,
Yes.
I will say that Jen and Lucia, you chose what it
Yes,
would
we
ultimately be, but we
did.
had so many.
Because there was like a green
great
cargo
options.
cutoff version that was kind of fun. But
Mhm.
this one to us was just the funniest with the sunglasses and the necklace that completes the look. It was just fun. And we think you look so great.
Thank you. Meg and I did keep those costumes. We have
Oh,
them.
you?
do you?
Yeah, we have them.
Oh,
that's
good.
so
Okay,
funny.
that's good.
So you
Yeah.
guys could be yourselves for Halloween.
Or Planet Hollywood could take them if they
Oh,
want to
oh,
purchase.
yeah.
You know?
I do remember when we were in the writer's room pitching on the Sassafras outfits, Lucia was so specific that she wanted a tight scoop neck with a little bow.
Sometimes you just know what you want to see your
Yeah.
husband wear.
And to talk about fulfilling prophecy again,
Yep.
sugar floaties
Mm.
are
Oh.
early aught flip-flops that are kind of like the same material that pool flotation
I would say that.
things are. It's
Mhm.
like, and just to give the audience some real deep cut trivia, I had an apartment broker named Stefania who showed me my very first apartment in New York. She was a woman who in New York City wore sugar floaties that squeaked with every step, and there were a lot of walk-ups. And when we wrote a character played by Amy Sedaris for Broad City,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I pitched that she was wearing sugar floaties because it
Mhm.
was such a funny specific to me.
Mhm.
And I also believe that as she should, Amy was very involved in the costuming and the hair, the makeup, the body of that character. And sugar floaties were not on her checklist. So it did not happen.
Mm.
Right.
That was a
Hacks made it
hanging chat
happen.
of Paul's.
Yeah, that's another hanging
that is
chat.
another hanging
wow,
chat,
this
and
episode is
Hacks made
so
it
full
happen.
circle for you.
I can retire.
And also, I believe in episode 101, don't we have an insert shot of sugar floaties in the Las Vegas airport?
Oh, maybe we do. Is it sugar floaties?
I feel like
Maybe
we
the
talked
prophecy
to
has been
Kathleen
fulfilled for a
about-
while.
My God, have you no dignity? Cover up.
I am covered. It's a full blouse.
I'm talking to Jimmy. You look like two Hannah Montanas.
Hannah Montana was two people, you fucking moron. We got bed bugs and we had to go to Sassafras.
What about the chokers?
They complete the look.
Apparently they complete the look.
And another thing about the Jimmy and Kayla storyline that is, again, full circle in a final season that is so sweet is that in episode 110, in the honeymoon suite, Kayla has booked a room for her and Jimmy, and she wants them to stay there together. And Jimmy is less than pleased with this, as we recall. He says, I'm been Me Too'd and I'm the me, Ava. And I think that this is another moment in this episode, which is such a nice full circle moment for our duo, Jimmy and Kayla, where now they easily and happily share a hotel room together. They sleep in beds next to each other. Jimmy has accepted this interesting woman in his life, his best friend / life work partner, and
Their family.
And there's just something, that scene is so funny between you and Meg, but it's also really sweet that, I don't know, they're just sleeping next to each other like that. It's a really, I don't know, it's touching also in the same way it is when Ava and Deborah are sitting at Deborah's pond together.
And that is it for episode 6. Thanks so much for joining us again. This has been the Official Hacks Podcast with Lucia Aniello, Jen Statsky, and me, Paul W. Downs. The Hacks Podcast is produced by HBO Max in collaboration with Same Boat Studios. Our executive producers are Gabrielle Lewis and Barry Finkel. Our senior producer is Emmanuel Hapsis. The show is mixed by Hannes Brown, and our technical director is In-Sung Huang. Special thanks to Michael Gluckstadt, Allison Cohen-Srodkach, and Kenya Reyes from the HBO Max podcast team. You can watch all of Hacks on HBO Max, and we'll be back next week to dig into episode 7. Until then, never stop listening.
Thanks, guys.
Start again now.
See you soon.
Never stop listening.
Bye.
Stay positive like me.
I'm like a bird. I always fly away.